start just with each candidate doing a 45-second opening statement. If you get to a minute, I will cut you off, but 45 seconds is perfect. And we will kick off with Joe. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. While I've been here, I've been part of the ice hockey club for the whole time. I've been president for 2 years, as well as treasurer and captain for the last 3. So that's taken up most of my university life. And then this year I've been on AU exec, and I've also played intramural football through the last 4 years. If I get elected into the role, I'd like to create a really inclusive sport system here, encourage participation, promote disability sport, and look to improve club participation through like coaching qualification for club members, and tackle the way that sport is run at the uni in terms of costs and how those costs are managed throughout the year.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Steve Allen.
Thank you, Alex. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for setting this up. Okay, my name is Stylianos. I'm 22. I'm from Cyprus. I'm currently a stage 2 economics student and also I'm the treasurer of the Archer Club. So this gives me a background regarding economics and the cost and everything that has to do with financials. Also, I'm part of the AU exec committee and I've been coach rep for the past 2 years, which helps me understand the problems inside clubs and what students face and all that welfare related. Sorry for my English, it's not my first language. Also, I've been in the army for 2 years as a sergeant, and I've been involved with the European Youth Parliament for 5 years, which means got qualifications regarding leadership, communication, and time management. My main manifesto points are I want to improve and promote diversity and welfare within the sports clubs because I believe everyone has the right to sports, not just if you're fit or you're like talented, everyone has the right to do sports. Also, I want to work closely with all sports clubs in an attempt to reduce their cost.
Just cut you off there, just over a minute.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Thank you.
Laura?
Hi, I'm Lara and I'm currently Secretary for Women's Lacrosse. I'm a third year geography student. I've sat on the AU exec this year, which I found really interesting, and then beyond that I've been on the Student Council and the Finance Committee for the university. My main points are to introduce an annual fundraiser for Mind whilst at university. This year I currently run 2 charity tournaments which has raised over £800 for charity, so I think that could be a really big part of sport at university. I want to increase spectator attendance at home games and develop a post-match venue for all sports at Newcastle University.
Thank you very much. So, I'm just going to move on first of all to something that was pretty much picked up in all of your manifestos, which was talking about Wednesday afternoons, and I think all of you mentioned it in some sense to try and work on keeping them free for students. So, Laura, do you want to kick off by talking about how you plan to sort of work the university to solve the issues that you currently see with that?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd probably start next year with holding focus groups to see which subjects are actually affected most. I personally found last year that I missed all my dissertation seminars, which actually really affected my dissertation because all my buses left at 7 in the morning. So I think I'd actually then go to the heads of the departments and try and get that to be like a set-up meeting with the AU so that they can recognise the importance of sport, because I think the university really promotes sport, but at the same time they don't actually recognise that teams that are like performance, they're expected to leave, say at 7 a.m. to go to Sheffield, but then the university's also like, you have to be at 7 or 11, so I think that needs to be a balance met between them.
Brilliant. Yeah, same question for you, Studiana.
Okay, so my solution would be, again, as Lara said, communication with the different schools. I know it's more of a problem faculty-wise because they don't have the space to accommodate all the seminars on all days. So what I would suggest is the students that are taking part in sports should declare that they are doing that on Wednesdays, so they have that problem. So they will be appointed in a different group seminar which doesn't take place on Wednesdays. This way, both the schools and the students are happy.
Yeah. Joe?
Same for me, and it seems to be a problem right from the top of sport right down to the participation level at the bottom. I know I've been coaching our beginner sessions on a Wednesday afternoon for the past couple of years, and every year we get multiple messages, maybe like in the 20s, from people that have started and then say they can't carry on because they've got stuff on a Wednesday afternoon that they just don't want to miss. So again, take it to the faculties. Generally, it seems when you take it to a faculty, as I've done in the past, they're really accommodating with it. And I've had some of my lectures changed this year from a Wednesday afternoon But I think a lot of the timetabling services just don't seem to know that it's a problem. Like, so yeah, go and take it higher in the university to try and make that a comment to the timetabling services that it shouldn't happen.
Right. Okay. So something else that also you tended to sort of go across the board on the manifestos was the issue of participation and sort of accessibility. I know you sort of spoke about Joe. You spoke about casual sort of sports sessions.
Yeah.
Lara, you also mentioned intramural sport a little bit, and Steve also spoke about accessibility of Long Benton. So Laura, do you want to start off talking about accessibility and participation? Sorry.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest things is when you arrive at Newcastle University and knowing the options that are personally open to you. I know that when I came, the only reason I actually found out is because I went to the sports fair and I spoke to them individually. So I think a big thing of that was we working with the club presidents to really get it out there before university starts, and have a lot of, like, social media is so big, have all the Facebook pages open, not just have something on the university website because sometimes it's wrong, it's not updated. Working with that and then making the sports fair more like bigger branded on campus, and once that's recognised, and then going beyond that and finding ways that people can actually get to Long Benton. I think that's quite a big issue at the start of Fresh Week, so putting on shuttle buses to Long Benton, because I know a lot of our freshers found it quite hard to get there at the start.
Okay, so I've been shooting art and been doing art shoot in Long Benton for the past 2 years, and I have seen that it's not at all accessible to disabled students. Basically, there's no pavement. At night, the pathway is not lit. I have 2 disabled students in my club which have a hard time heading by themselves down to the Long Benton range. And it's not just about disabled students, it's about everyone else, because these things pose a hazard, and basically it's not safe for our students to head down the fields at night or, yeah.
Can I just ask you?
Yes.
And how you think you will actually change that? So I really appreciate the sentiment, but how are you going to change that? What are you going to do?
Again, it will take a lot of communication with me and the faculties to see what they can do, what their budget is, how have experience when it comes to construction materials from family business, and basically I'm sure I can find a solution regarding that.
Joe, same again for improving participation.
So it seems to me that quite a few people are scared of joining the club straight away, as it's quite a big commitment, and that stops quite a lot of people getting involved in sport at all. So I think putting on casual sports sessions through the week and working with clubs, say clubs like Rounders, where you don't need loads of specialist equipment, you just need a field and some bases to play, or like circuits in the park or something like that. Anything to get people active would be really worthwhile, and using the SU and university accounts to promote that to people, to let them know that it's actually happening and they can get involved.
So something else that was mentioned in your manifesto, Joe, as well as quite a help in yours, Tiana, was talking about raising welfare officer training. I wonder how you wanted to go about that, and sort of why you think that the current training isn't fit for purpose. Joe, do you want to start us off with that?
We've been lucky this year in that we've had a really good welfare officer who's been really proactive. But a few friends that I've got in other clubs have said that the welfare officer sometimes just doesn't know where to go first, at first point of call to go and get. If they need help in providing welfare support to other people, they don't know where the first port of call is for them to go. So conduct focus groups with either current welfare officers or incoming welfare officers in how they'd like to be trained, and then acting on that and promoting it through the SU.
Okay, yeah. How do you approach that training? Through yourself or?
Through myself, a combination with the welfare and quality officer, I think would be a good idea. And then maybe getting some external speakers from sports as well.
Yeah. Stianos?
Okay, so how I see it, currently the welfare officer is a point where students go to him or her for their problems, but what I want to change is the welfare officer goes to the students, actually chasing them, asking them questions. How do you feel? How are you doing? Give me some feedback. And so I will have welfare officers promote campaigns regarding like rainbow laces, can, because I think those campaigns are really important and they go well with the welfare officer role, as well as promote to disability students that they can do sports as well. And yeah, that's it.
Laura, so if you want to comment on that, I know you talked about sort of fundraising for Mind and stuff, sort of linked in with the
So we've found this year that we've split our roles up into, we've had me as secretary, and then we've had our social sex, and we've had our welfare officer, and we've all worked in the events together. But I've actually found, working with men's hockey recently, they have their own welfare officer. So next year in our club, how we've implemented it is we have like a welfare events officer specifically. So maybe introduce that throughout clubs next year. So if I was to introduce the fundraiser for Mind, I'd have someone on each committee across the clubs to work with me to organise that, because I know it'd be quite a big thing, and I'd have to get recruitment for all the clubs. And with the welfare training, the feedback from our club was that it went really well this year, and she found it particularly useful. So that wasn't really something I put in my manifesto, because I've had quite good feedback from it. I don't know about other clubs, but probably continue with that, speak to them, have a focus group with them, see what they say, anything they think they could improve on, and then go from there.
Brilliant, right. So something else that was mentioned quite heavily was affordability. I think it's a recent student survey found it's quite a big issue for students in general, especially in terms of sport. So I know a couple of you mentioned in terms of gym membership. So I know, Joe, you want to try and push for monthly payments, and Laurie talked about decreasing gold membership. I wonder if you wanted to kick us off, Laurie, talking about what you think you could do to improve affordability in sport.
From speaking to current athletes about their time at university, they found personally they've wanted to go to gyms outside university, such as like Pure Gym or Anytime, and it's been a lot cheaper. And that realistically can't work for them, because if they want to be on a first team, they have to go and do the S&C, and to do S&C, you have to go gold. I've spoken to quite a few people about this. Some people have kind of decided to boycott it and ended up not going up, like doing the S&C thing, and then therefore missing out on certain training. So I think it's something that's personally really important, is to lower the cost. And I know there isn't heaps of money that can go into it, having been on the AE and the finance committee this year, and having actually spoken to Ross, who's the S&C coach. But I still think there are personally ways within the uni that like money can maybe eventually be found, even if it's like not through the union, but speaking to university itself, how much they want to push sport personally. Because that's going to be up to them at the end of the day if they're only giving us a limited amount of money. But I think reducing the cost of S&C for performance sports athlete is something that's really important if you want to increase access to their time.
What about participation students, so the ones who play intramural or do campus leagues? What would you like to do to help them?
To help them, I probably, with the silver membership, I know a lot of people are actually unaware of what it gets them. My housemate, for example, he does intramural rugby, and he's found that amazing, but he didn't even have a clue that he could go into the sports centre and book half of he was like, how did you book the basketball court? I said, you literally just have to be part of the sports centre and use the facilities. So I'd increase awareness of that to people that actually have it, such as pushing the app. I found it's been really useful for my bookings and stuff. So that's one way I go about it.
Stianos, you said you want to make sports even more affordable. So if you could expand on that at all in terms of what you meant by that.
Yes, definitely. Basically, my plan is to work closely with the clubs to decrease their cost, because I'm kind of opposed having the university giving more fund, because if for them to give more fund, they have to take from somewhere else, and I don't want others, like let's say societies, to burden. Basically, I will use my economic knowledge and treasury background to basically decrease that cost and find a better way, more cost-efficient way for them to run the clubs. We, in the long term, will be able to decrease their membership cost.
Right. Is there anywhere specific you can see those sort of cost reductions coming from?
Basically, they have a low cost when it comes to transportation. So booking some facilities, for example, hockey has to book an outside facility. And club kit was a big cost, which I will try to find a solution regarding that as well. And that's what I have until now. But I will research it once, if I get elected, and see what else I can come up with.
Same question for you, Joe, in terms of affordability.
So we found that a lot of problems come from the fact that if people want to join a club at the start of university, paying that on top of the 60 quid or 180 quid for gold at the start in Freshers Week is a massive put-off for a lot of people. So, and also through intramural, I know my house have had a 5-side team in intramural leagues for the past couple of years, but this year we haven't, because a few of the guys just said they just can't afford to pay 60 quid to pay like one semester of 5-side football, when we could go out and join a league elsewhere that's just a general league and pay like a couple of quid a week. So for that sports centre, it wouldn't reduce any of the funds coming into the sports centre. It would just be distributed over a longer time. So if it's coming in monthly, it might even encourage more people to take up a membership, which would actually increase the finances of the sports centre, but try and do it in a way that works better for students.
Okay, great. Do you want to maybe just expand on how you plan on getting sort of in the extra money in terms of reducing the affordability, sorry, increasing the affordability?
Well, I'd like to do a review. We've had on exec. We had the review with Phil Ansell about the cost, the governance of university sport, and he seemed quite interested in how we all found that sport had cost us at university. So it would be interesting to see what that £60 actually goes into for your average person. So say it could be really good value for someone that's on sports teams, plays intramural and does loads of stuff, but maybe we could tier it differently. So there's a sports club membership and an intramural membership or something like that.
So having done research, looking at other universities, we in comparison are actually quite cheap. So how do you think you'll be able to justify reducing costs or spreading them out or doing them differently when other universities it costs a lot more to be part of a club?
I think just based on what the students are saying of how they are still struggling to afford to join clubs and it is putting people off, I think that should be, as the students run sport at uni and are the main people it's aimed at, they should be the ones that we cater for.
Right, so Laura, one of the points on your manifesto was about developing a venue on Wednesday for post-match food and drink for home sides. Can you sort of go into more detail about how you sort of plan to go through with that?
Well, when looking at other universities, say like we've been to Leeds, they've had it in their pavilion on their sports ground, and I know we're currently developing Cochrane. We also have Long Benton. Obviously, because I'm not working on the developments, I couldn't go too much into it. But either like Long Benton upstairs has so much potential. It's never in use. It's empty all the time. It's literally got a kitchen built into it at the back, and I'm sure Cochrane will have plenty of facilities as well. Even if like at school, if we had like a fundraiser for a huge tour. And we use the teams to raise money for that. So if it's something that the teams really wanted, I feel like it's something they could get behind and have fundraisers throughout the year. Even if it's something that was implemented in 2021, it could benefit students in the future.
So it's achievable given that you can have quite a few home teams playing on a given Wednesday at home?
Wait, sorry, I didn't.
So do you think it's achievable given the fact that there might be quite a lot of home games on a Wednesday? Do you think it's scalable enough?
Yeah, 100%. So at the moment, teams like all the intramural teams and currently like most of the sports teams go to Blanc on a Wednesday, and that capacity is not huge, but it's literally always full. It always gets repeat business. I feel like if you could divert it away from there and let them know it's somewhere that all sports teams are going to be, like literally the Leeds one when we went, everyone was there, and it wasn't particularly big. Like it was just that atmosphere that everyone was there. It was recognised as like team Leeds. I feel like something we could implement here, and you'd be able to fit everyone in.
Okay, thank you very much. Stiana, so you mentioned on yours about re-examining the yearly grant. So they're looking about how you can give potentially more money to less competitive orientated sports.
Exactly. Basically, how the system works right now is the better you do, the more money you get. And so it's heavily dependent on bugs. So, for example, in archery, we only have bugs competition once a year. And if we don't do well on that day, we basically not get the proper amount of fund that we will need throughout the year. And I believe that is not fair because, like archery, there are other clubs that also contribute not solely to competition, but also to their members when it comes to welfare. So, example, we provide the coaching courses for them. We provide opportunities to train fellow students, also volunteering and helping out setting up the course and everything. And yeah, basically my system will have to examine and find a balance between how much you need to get when it comes to competition and when it comes to bugs, and how much you can get when it comes to welfare and contributing that section. Makes sense.
Okay, just because it's kind of part of my job already. So if you want to re-examine it and do it differently, if there's a set budget which is likely to be similar to what it is this year, are you then going to take are performing really high, like a really high standard, or how would you look to do that so that, because there's a fact that if you're competing weekly, you're travelling weekly, you've got expenses weekly, so that's why that kind of section exists. So what would you do differently if you are elected next year? How would you do it differently? Because you've seen how it's done this
Yes,
year.
of course. Yeah. Basically, I have to see what each club individually has to face regarding costs, because not all the clubs face the same cost. Some clubs face higher costs, but might not perform as well at backs as other clubs, but contribute to welfare. So I want to help them like that. And also it connects to my previous point when it comes to decreasing their personal cost. Basically, I will help them out decrease their personal cost in an attempt to make them independent from the grant in the long term.
So, Joe, you spoke quite early on your manifesto about qualifications for club members. Now, bear in mind that there's about over 4,000 members in total of sports clubs around uni. How would you sort of go about, first of all, trying to find funding for that training? Second of all, potentially choosing which members of the clubs you're going to give that training to? Because obviously if they all come back saying they want to get trained, it's not going to be sort of sustainable.
So that was something that I thought would come through the committees of the clubs. So they'd pick maybe 1 or 2 members that are really involved in their training sessions. Like I know Josh, who's on AU Exec and is president of basketball, does a lot of coaching for their second team and people like that. So I think they're the sort of people that it would really warrant a coaching qualification for, because one, he can improve the level of training of their club, and also because he's putting so much into that club, he then gets a qualification to come out of it and take into the real world on his CV. Other people like triathlon, I know their sessions are run by individually by the run captain, the bike captain, the swim captain. So maybe they're the sorts of people that would then be trained. Again, it's not for everyone in the clubs to go and get a qualification, but it's just those ones who are really putting the effort in and actually running those training sessions that it would be worthwhile for.
In terms of funding of that as well, obviously it can be quite expensive for sort of level 1, level 2.
So that's something that I'd have to look into with the SU and how we'd do it. But I think that it could be a really valuable thing if part of the grant was sectioned off for that maybe. It's something I'd have to look into more. But
Right, no worries. Laura, one more thing you mentioned about the fact in terms of increasing time spent waiting for teams on away days by increasing the number of small buses to travel to away matches. Do you want to talk more about this and potentially in terms of the fact that could be quite expensive?
Yeah, I know it's an issue that's come up quite a lot in lots of people's manifestos. Personally, I think when we've been talking about it this year, I know that actually so the university subsidises the costs for clubs, and I think it's less a money thing, and I think it's more mediating with clubs what they want to do and how they want to manage it. If they want to invest more time and money into putting on smaller buses for their club, that is 100% up to them. I know a lot of clubs have a lot of money to do that, whereas some may not. So that would 100% be up to the club itself. I know the university isn't just going to push money behind it, but I think it's more making clubs aware that is an option for them if they do want to, and there's still going to be the same amount of subsidisation they had before. And then beyond that, looking at the bus companies that we currently use, seeing if we're using them constantly, if they might put on deals for us, or if we're using the same company throughout the year, they might reduce rates for specific.
So you're saying that the clubs themselves would subsidise the difference in that cost rather than the union?
Yeah, if they personally recognise as a club that it's a large thing out, they might increase their membership by say £10 per person a year, and that might foot the fee. But that would have to be something that the club chooses to do. But it would be letting them know that's an option, because I think at the moment they're just given a standard option, and they'll go for it. Whereas if it was more options available, they might be able to go through that route.
Thank you very much. So I know Maggie this year has done a little bit in terms of working with charity and sport, and I believe you mentioned that in your manifesto as well. But Joe, you wanted to kick us off talking about why you think that's important and what you kind of plan to do.
I think as a collective, we're a really massive body of people that could go and act some good, and to provide support for people to do that and encourage people in sport to go out as a whole and do charity events, I think is just a very beneficial thing that we should do. We're lucky in that we're at university, so I'd like to push that.
Okay, yeah, great. Same for Laurie. You obviously mentioned about your Mind fundraiser.
Yeah, so as I don't want to repeat myself, but as I was saying earlier, the events that we had, so we literally had one the other day, and we got like Red Bull contacted us, and they provided like Red Bull for the whole event. We had DJs, and that got so many more people down, and we made a really accessible event. It wasn't just for the clubs; it's literally for anyone. It's literally just £1 entry, and we ended up raising like over £100 just literally by having people down for a sports tournament. I feel like if it's something you could get out on Facebook, if you could get every single individual club to hold these kind of events together and then have it going towards the same cause, even if you did it over, I know we don't have our like St. Calvert anymore, but if we replaced that with something like a charity week and we had all the sports teams doing this, I feel like collectively you could raise quite a lot of money. And it's just more raising awareness of like what you can actually do with it, and getting teams like all about it. You got them if they know it's something that's expected of them, and more likely to do it. We did it off our own initiative, but I feel like if clubs have that in front of them as an incentive, then it might be something they go and do.
Yes, did Alice?
Graphing charity. Basically, my main aim was to promote campaigns regarding Discuss Gun and the Rainbow Laces, but I can see myself promoting charities as well. Basically, we will have a new sports center coming up next year, so I'm sure we definitely have the space to host charity events such like that. And I'm sure all of our students in university would be happy to pay like a small fee, which will go up to a new cause to try out a sport, or also ask different clubs to host tester sessions where the money also goes to charity as well.
Okay. So have you got any more? Have you got any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a bit more about the participation element, because obviously the main part of the role is to look after sports clubs, but there is a sort of another side of it that you're supposed to be the primary contact for anyone who wants to play any sport at university at any level. So what are your kind of opinions on that, and how things should be split between performance and participation? I don't know, Joe, do you want to go first on that one?
I think firstly I'd always be happy to push someone towards sport. I mean, sport basically has been my university. I do it quite a lot more than I do university sometimes. So yeah, I think that it's important to get the balance right. I'm massively for participation. I think entry-level sport is a great way to get the student body active, and it's great for mental health. It's great for making friends, for getting people engaged in the university community. So I'd always look to push people towards doing sport if they can. If they're interested, fantastic. But we do recognise that as a performance club, like, well, all the performance clubs that there are, you don't want that taken away from you. So I think it's more that we could promote more sport rather than having to take away to then increase participation.
I also believe promoting both competitive and non-competitive sports, participation is really important. Mainly want to focus on our postgraduate students because they have a lot of workload and they don't find time to participate in enough sports. I had postgraduate students join at the beginning of the year and they had to quit due to their workload. So we'll have to find a way to bring them back, maybe decrease their cost, finding better hours, and yeah.
I think how we currently have the AU exec for the like performance clubs and the AU clubs, I think I quite like to have something, but with the intramural side of it, I don't think it's not that their voice isn't really heard. I just don't think they're really as recognised within the university as being sport because they're not officially an AU club. Whereas I know like lots of my friends are in intramural teams and it's something they've really enjoyed whilst at university. So I feel like if they had the option to come to something like AU exec and sit in it and be like, this is what we want, and vote on matters and things like that. Also in Freshers Week, after obviously you have the Freshers Fair for all the sports teams, have something similar for the intramural clubs. I know normally they just go around like promoting on campus trying to recruit people, but I feel like if they had an official venue where people could come and realise it's not as intense as maybe university sport is, but it's still something for them, I think that'd be quite a good option.
I want to open up at this point to any questions from the audience if anyone has anything.
Might as well.
Go for it.
Thanks. Hello. Just on an idea about connecting up the sports societies with like the mainstream kind of student societies and well-being. Just kind of thoughts upon like having more discussions, for example, with the Mental Health Society and the Disability Neurodiversity Society. So coming in, hosting joint talks. So then it's not just appealing to the disconnect of the sports clubs, and it's on the main student body of campus here. Just
Laura, do you want to start?
thoughts on that, really?
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good idea personally. As I said, we work with our welfare officer this year, and something that's quite a big topic in our club is mental health. It's really important to all our members, and so we're thinking to have another kind of like charity event for that. So maybe if we worked with those societies, and if not just Mind, like go beyond that with the societies you're thinking, and see what the students want, and then go from there.
Basically, that was my plan. Reach out to the society, to Disability Society, LGBT societies, reach them out because I will use them as channels to promote sports, and what better way to do it with the help of the societies and the whole university.
Similar from me, one of my policies is actually to introduce sessions for disability sport, such as like boccia and goalball, which are both quite inexpensive to buy the equipment for and set up in the sports hall. It's something you can just do in a sports hall. Boccia is just a set of balls, and goalball you need a ball and some blindfolds. But I think that would be a really good way to get the Disability Society involved and actually promote sport and promote bringing able-bodied and disabled-bodied people together to play sport.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah.
Just intrigued because none of you really mentioned anything about like recognition, things like like what plans would you have to like improve recognition of like good sporting achievements?
Can you repeat that, please?
Like recognition of people who've done well in sport in the university. Like how would you improve it, or is it good enough already?
Joe, you want to start with that?
I think it's something we'd all like to see more. Like being a student athlete is pretty tough at times. So it'd be nice to see some recognition on maybe the main university platforms rather than just the SC. If a team's done well, I think it's a massive part of the university, so they should celebrate it as a university, and it'll also, for them, it will bring people in that want to do sport that are looking at coming to university, so it's sort of a win-win to celebrate us.
Basically, my idea was to create a publicity officer training, where because as AU we cannot chase all the clubs to find out what you did, how well are you doing. So it's up to the publicity officer of each club to come and reach us to tell us what they did. Like we got a gold medal there, we won there, and there, and there, and we will pass it on to the courier and to the appropriate channels, so all students at the university know how well we are doing.
So one of my manifesto points is weekly recognition of sporting achievements at the university across social media channels and via emails. I find it really uplifting when we get to see like if your club gets mentioned in the AU email. I think personally, because you have to handle like you're telling the AU officer your results anyway each week. If you nominate one person from your club that you've heard had an outstanding performance, you can then compare that. It only takes literally 5 minutes to read through all the emails results, and then you can put on the AU officer Facebook page like this person's sporting player of the week. And I feel like if you saw that on Facebook, that might be something you think, oh, I'd quite like to be that person, and really push yourself the week after.
We've got time for one more question, yeah?
I think a couple of you mentioned the idea of Team Newcastle. I'd like to know like what you think that encompasses, whether that's just about sport or whether it's more than that, and how you'd like to promote it.
Laura?
I'd say Team Newcastle represents, I think mainly people perceive it to be the performance sports because they're going out, they've got their their kit, but I wouldn't personally say that it's just inclusive of that. I'd say intramurals, like you have so many friends who are in so many different intramural teams, I wouldn't ever think to that like their sport is lesser just because they're not going to Newcastle. I'd say it's inclusive of everyone.
Yep, basically Team Newcastle, as I say, is not just a performance sport, it's all the sports, everyone that participates. Actually, all of Newcastle, we are Newcastle. And basically, it helps each other indirectly, not necessarily by participating in sports. We might help our friend who takes part in sport by mentally supporting him and like that, so.
Yeah, agree with what both of them have said. Like everyone that plays sport at Newcastle is part of Team Newcastle. It's maybe something that this kit deal that's coming this year was meant to bring us all together and really create a Team Newcastle sort of state of mind, I guess. So it's something that again we could push, try and get everyone linked together.
Perfect. So if I could just get about 5 minutes left, so we just get your just closing statement from each of you, again about 45 seconds long. Again, I'll cut you off after about a minute. Laura, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so just again to reiterate my main points of mental health fundraiser, a post-match venue, and also really raising recognition, not just of performance sports athletes at Newcastle University, but also across the whole spectrum.
Basically, my point, well, for me, because I want to promote diversity within sports, because I believe everyone has the right to do sports, regardless gender, physical abilities, talent, whatsoever. I want to promote, make courses more affordable, so more people has access to can participate in them. Promote campaigns such as Rainbow Laces, This Girl Can, maybe create a new campaign as well. And also re-examine how the yearly grant is distributed, so not just performance sports benefit, but also non-performance sport oriented also benefit that contribute to the well-being of the students.
Yeah, same. If I'm elected, I'd like to work towards a really inclusive and accessible sport at Newcastle Uni, and that celebrates what we do as a student body. Because at the end of the day, sport is run by students, and it's all put on by students. It's facilitated by the SU and the uni, but we are the ones that run it. So I think we should be celebrated for that.
Perfect. So thank you very much, guys. We've just got the activities debate in about 5 minutes time, but yeah, that's it for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello and welcome to the debate for Activities Officer. It's the latest in our series of debates brought to you by NSR in collaboration with NUTV and The Courier. I'm James and I'll be the moderator for this debate, and unfortunately I won't be joined by Sophie, although I've worked with her to get some idea of the role in more depth. Ali, unfortunately, will be leaving at 7:30 because he's doing a fashion show, aren't you?
Yeah.
What will we be wearing?
So there's 3 different walks I'm doing. One's for Adidas Sport, one's the Yesterday Society, which is a market stall in Grange Market, and then the third one is the Underwear Walk.
How exciting. So he'll be leaving at 7:30. Apologies for that. So we're going to kick off the debate then with our opening statements, coming to Meg first. You've got 40 seconds. So essentially we'll have opening statements, then we'll have some questions, audience questions after that, and then we'll finish off with the closing statement. So coming over to Meg with your opening statement.
Right. Hi, I'm Meg. I want to be your activities officer for next year. I want to keep things cheap and cheerful and fun and functional. That's working on your employability whilst also having the best student experience that Newcastle is well and famous for.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Kilner. I'm a third-year history student. I'm on the committee at the moment, so I kind of know how societies work. I want to make sure societies can collaborate better. I want to make sure Go Volunteer is more easily accessible to societies. And I want to create a connection with alumni to make life after uni less daunting. And I just want to be there for societies in general, really, and help you out as much as I can.
Hi, my name's Jordan Carroll. I'm a third-year linguistics student. I'm going for activities officer because for me personally, society has really changed my uni experience. In my first year, I didn't get involved in it. And then when I did, it just opened up so many opportunities and made so many great friends. I'm on the committee for the 20-Minute Society, and I'm also was the supervisor for RAG and Indie Society. My 6 main points would be, like, you get a free societal membership for doing Freshers Crew, then buy one, get one half price in memberships because they add up and they get quite expensive. And then also arranging a mixer for local students because going to the full Freshers Fair feels personally intimidating as a local student, and facilitating optional mixers so that committees can make joint societies, and then also getting the university to help us get sponsorship, and also creating a BuzzFeed quiz that'll help you find your people and match you to a society.
Good evening, I'm Harris. Within the first few weeks of being a student, I co-founded the Newcastle University Computing and Technology Society. The society within its first year won Best New Society, Best Fundraiser, and Best Society in the following year. That was almost 5 years ago, and I've never stopped since. And at that time, I've been on 8 society committees in 10 different committee roles. I've sat on society exec committee 3 separate years. In the last 4 years, nearly every major society change, new policy, instant issue has gone through society exec committee, and I've had some degree of voice in a majority of those. My experience in founding, leading, and administrating multiple societies makes me uniquely qualified for this role. I've worked closely and seen the work of the last 3 of the last 4 activities officers, allow me to have a background that will give me some sort of continuity in the role should I be elected, as I'll be able to pick up straight from the work. My experience means I'm the best candidate to support societies.
Hi, my name's Alistair. I'm a third-year economist, and I must apologise for my voice. So I've been involved in a lot of societies and different programmes at Newcastle, all of which have been immensely helpful to helping me get a good university experience. A large part of my time has been volunteering as treasurer for the 20-Minute Society, which obviously does a lot of things. But beyond that, I want to become activities officer because I've seen the work that the volunteers for these societies put in, and I think at the very least we need to do more to help support them and reassure them for all the things that they do.
Amazing, thank you very much. So we're going to be talking a little bit about your manifestos first off. So we're going to come straight to Alice and this evening early. So in your manifesto you state that you understand the importance of having support from the union when trying to achieve more with your society, and you say that that will be a key element of your campaign. I'm struggling to grasp what that actually means, like tangibly. So could you shed some sort of light on that, please?
So for one thing, I would have a very open door policy. At any point, something could go wrong, or you might just have any concerns with running a society, and therefore I want to, like how Sophie done with a coffee morning, or just generally being very approachable and friendly, I would want to continue that. But also when it comes to the training at the beginning of the year, going beyond the legal requirements and actually trying to pass down some genuine wisdom instead of just doing the bare minimum of how to stay within the guidelines of the law. In addition to that, just helping societies communicate, and therefore generally just spreading the knowledge and good practice within societies.
Okay, thank you. And also also in your manifesto you say that you want to simplify how activities are run through improved tools. What are these tools and how are you going to improve them?
Yeah, so part of this is I want to add a feature to the administration page for the societies. So this would be almost like a forum. So you can reach out to the societies and try and get help. Obviously, this would have to be like designed, but that would be part of it. Reach out, ask for help. There'd be features like a share box within the storage facility, so that if you have equipment or things that you can share, such as like fairy lights, you can list it and then say, okay, you're able to borrow this. On top of that, I'd also want to include like a public calendar that would allow not only societies but also programs such as Give It a Go, post about their events, help them get exposure, and it would also help members to see what's available all in one centralized place much easily and help
We
avoid
have a
clashes.
calendar.
No, but make it, well, we do have a calendar, yes, but I don't think there's as much awareness about it as there could be.
Okay, so this sort of comes under your society hub.
Yeah.
Coined it. So that's one of the ways you want to do society collaboration.
Mhm.
It's sort of an online system.
Yeah.
So how
I
is
think
that
a lot
going
of-
to be created? How's it going to be sort of funded? Sort of creating that online system. Because in its depth, it's going to do forum system, advice seeking, share box, going to have this calendar. So how's it going to be set up?
Well, I'd seek the advice of someone who understands how to program these things. But it is fairly simple. Like obviously, it would just be like a forum mechanism. It'd just be a way of communicating for a lot of it, and then that wouldn't be too technical, and therefore it wouldn't be too difficult to achieve. But yeah, this would just be part of when you obviously try to access your administrator tools with the society page. Sorry.
Okay, and a lot of you have also spoken about society collaboration as well. So what are your thoughts or ideas on that? We'll go straight to Harris.
When Rebecca Walker was activities officer, we tried to do a similar thing. We tried to do it through Facebook. We set up every member of the exec committee had their own Facebook group for their respective roles, to try and engage with the committees. And it didn't spectacularly work. Most committees don't tend to really feel the need to engage with the union or through intermediaries. So obviously that's a problem which I fear might cause issues with kind of your idea of making a new platform outside of Facebook in terms of what's the solution. Well, I think it's just, again, and I mentioned in my manifesto as well, just increase engagement with the union as a whole. There are societies that I'm part of where they have expressed, issues about how to solve certain problems. And I'm like, well, why do you just talk to Sophie? Or why do you just talk to the activities officer? Why do you just, go to the union? And it's literally never occurred to them because they see themselves, whilst they're aware they're part of a big organisation, they see themselves as fairly autonomous. And clearly there's a establishing factor that's missing there, which I'd love to look into and sort of talk to the societies, ask what they can expect from us and what they're lacking that feels they have that disconnect.
I think in terms of being on a committee myself this year, I think it's more being able to have like one space on the NUSU website where you can just get information. It doesn't necessarily need to be where you do all your organisation or, the only way you can do it. Obviously, you can go on Facebook. Obviously, you can try things that have already been set up. But I think my idea would be the name of the society, the social they've got on that week, the person who's running it and their contact details, and then any comments. So I know that as History Society, we have wanted to collaborate with politics for a long time, and it's just quite difficult unless you know the president of that society or, someone in it. So you can, but I think it would open up more collaboration between wider societies if you had, right, this is what we are doing this week. Whoever wants to join, write in the comments box and we'll try and work something out. Because I think, yeah, you can message, but you have to, how do you know that they've got a social going on? Or how do you know, what they're up to? So I think if there's just one place, it doesn't need to be the only option. But I think if there's just information out there in one online system, it would be.
Why is the collaboration so important? Why is it so
I think it's easier for two reasons. So for committee members, it's really important because it means you don't necessarily have the pressure to put on a social every single week. I know our social secs get fed up with we need to do this, we need to do that, what are we going to do next? So it means you don't have to think of something every week. So say one society did something one week, another society did another. You're still giving an option to your members, but it doesn't fall on you every single week. It just makes it easier. And then in terms of from the students' point of view, having collaboration means that you get to meet new people. Yeah, it's great that you're, say, in film society and that's what you love doing, but how do you know you're not going to enjoy something that you wouldn't have thought of unless that collaboration is there?
Okay, and Meg, what are your sort of ideas for collaboration?
Yeah, first of all, I do agree with Alice's, Harris and Eleanor's points. I think collaboration is a big thing because, as you do say, you get tired and you get worn out from the start of the year. I do think collaboration is easy. Through my job at the moment as a brand manager, I do find it easy enough to collaborate with societies to run socials via Facebook, but I agree this could be easier. I know all students aren't like part of the exec committee within their society, but if you're on exec committee, so if you're a treasurer, secretary or president, you get into admin on the Facebook page, not Facebook, NUSU page, sorry. And basically, I think we could develop that a little bit more to add that collaborative effort. But also, I think the burnout, as I like to put it, as you get halfway through the year of committees, which I have seen happen quite a lot, I think that happens out of poor training. And I think we could really update training at the start of the year. So if you're in a society role, you have a start of the year training. But I'd really like to bring in a mid-year training. It's not compulsory, but it was really suggested that you do go along, and also check-ups for each society, whether you're a big one like 20-minute or you're a small one. It really doesn't matter, but I think collaboration brings up a bigger point about how we need larger training involved, and it's in more detail, all about welfare, but also event planning and organisation, and how to collaborate and how to communicate. That's really important, I think.
Okay, so with the extension of the training, how are you going to facilitate that? Sorry. Because there's a lot of people to get
Definitely.
To do it once a year is a big enough task as it is. So how are you going to manage the workloading to do that numerous times in a year?
I think also your point, I think we could elaborate the detail and importance of it. So if you give this training and you give out currently 2 dates, I think, usually that you could choose at the start of the year before Freshers Week. But also if you bring it up and you could add an extra day to that, I do think, yes, I agree with you, that is an extra work, but I think it's a really worthwhile workload. Just a couple extra days mid-year after exam period. So if we have a week after exams where everything's a little bit more of a chill out, I think that would be a good time to run it because everyone feels a little bit more free. But essentially, because it would be not compulsory but really suggested that you do, I think it's not as much of an effort as we may exaggerate or we may feel right at the start right now, if you get what I mean.
If it isn't compulsory and it is just a refresher, what's the incentive for people to go?
I think when you're in a society position, you do reflect. So with eventful organisation, you do think, as a social set, you think, oh, what have I got to do now? I'm running out of ideas. Those kind of things will prompt you. And if we advertise like mid-year training in such a way, then people will come.
I think what would be more important than maybe like mid-year training, like people don't want to trawl down to a 2-hour training session. I think maybe mid-year is where the online resources could be like harnessed more. So you could just be a reminder or like improve what is on the NUSU website in terms of guides and, packages on how to do it properly. I think in terms of smaller societies, it's really hard in refreshers fair to get more members. And I think we had, as part of our training for running for this, we had a marketing guy come in and talk to us, and I think something like that would be really useful, even if he just put his slides up of the presentation he gave us, like that would be really helpful. I think the online network, we're all so busy, and I think a lot of the time committee members are third-year students, so mid-year they're really busy with this, really busy with exams and stuff, and I think the online stuff is where it needs to happen rather than getting everyone in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like everyone else's solutions is more online based, and I really don't think that solves the problem, in my opinion. I feel like getting all of the societies, having a societal mixer once a month, the first one would be compulsory, the second one would be, like, from that point onwards would be more optional. It's more fun, people get to meet each other, they actually get to put names to faces to societies. It'll help the smaller societies do joint socials, it'll help the bigger ones do joint socials. Obviously I haven't planned the ins and outs of what we'd do there, but it'd probably just be sort of mingling, essentially. And I feel like the problem with what everyone else is saying is by doing it online, there's been other trials of it, it hasn't worked. And I think focusing on that and saying, oh, we'll just keep trying that, it's not really going to. It wouldn't be too hard to put a societal mixer once a month on in venue and just put on activities, get each members of each society on like different tables and getting them mingling, so that way social sex can meet social sex, presidents can meet presidents. And moreover, not just that, like when I joined 20 minutes of social sec, all of us were really new in our positions, and we found it really hard. Like obviously Ali was on there too. Like it wasn't, I personally didn't think it was easy to adjust. By having a societal mixer once a month, like you're meeting more people in your position, you can share ideas, share tips, and it becomes less like daunting. Whereas like all doing this all online, like it's just impersonal, and I don't think it'll solve the problem.
I don't think online is the only way. I'm just saying, in terms of mid-year, I think your idea of like a compulsory one at the beginning of the year is a great idea, because you're right, most of the time you've never had any experience. So I think society, like a mixer would be really good, but I think mid-year, I think that's when if we're talking about that time of the year, I think that's when online could work better than a societal mix when you're so crazy, like the schedules are so different.
Yeah, no,
but it's a fair point. It's a really good idea.
I completely agree in regards to like the whole mid-year thing. I'm not your atypical student. I transferred here from Essex University. And Essex University is a campus-based university, and what they also do is they have a week at the end of January exams, beginning the next semester. And what they rebrand that is like Refreshers Week, so it's full week of activities, full week of this and that. At the minute, I feel like we try to do that, but we just don't. We have a Refreshers event that just doesn't work because people are so busy. There's no like incentive to go there. If you dedicate a whole week to it and actually make it another Refreshers event, that way people who do RAG can have a week off. That way societies like can do joint socials, they can increase more members, and those who just want a break before semester 2 can have one. At the minute, there's nothing like that. And in my personal experience, I was like, did RAG Week as a supervisor this year, and I was exhausted going into semester 2. And I don't think that's, from my experience at the university, who does something differently, it works so much better.
So you're campaigning for a week off?
Yeah, it's in my manifesto mentioned too.
Is that not in the education remit? Because you are running to be activities officer.
Yeah, no, that is, but that's why it would be sort of a more coalition with working with the education officer and like coming up with an alternative in that respect. But I feel like it's part of the bigger picture. I think just like as an activities officer saying, yeah, I'm only going to work on societies or like solve those problems doesn't help. The whole idea of being a SAB team is working together and bringing new ideas and interacting.
But I do think that the reason that we would need that week in between is because we've been doing things like societies and stuff like that, and your exams have come like so intensely that you don't necessarily want that week to be going crazy and doing society stuff. And you know,
I think completely agree.
I think that is why it's definitely, I agree, like you shouldn't just stick to I'm activities officer, I'm not going to do anything, but I don't think that is necessarily something that is an issue for societies or for society like members.
No, but at this present moment, so we had the Refreshers Fair at the start of the year. I remember like our society, we went there and then we did a Refreshers event, and the turnout wasn't that great because it's during term time. There's no incentives for people to go and join new societies. By doing it this way and rebranding it as a Refreshers Week, you can do an entire week of societies putting on things, advertising it, and making it a big event. Because at this present moment, who's going to just randomly go to a Refreshers event, join a society where they don't know anyone, and then go in the middle of the year? There's absolutely no incentive.
So something Sophie said is that the Refreshers Fair did have quite a low turnout. That was one of the things this year. Obviously, your solution would be to have a whole week, similar to Freshers Week. Well, how would you address this issue that there was around 750 people turning up to Refreshers Fair compared to in the thousands turning up to Freshers Fair? How would you address that? Starting with Ali.
Okay, so yeah,
sorry.
We'll just leave it there.
So yeah, I think I will. So obviously it's understandable that Refreshers Fair doesn't get as much foot traffic as Freshers Fair would do, and obviously that a lot of that is due to the fact that people get stuck in their ways. And again, this is why I think that just helping societies get more exposure, being able to let people know we have events coming along, using this propaganda that I suggested would be very useful for people who do want to then start doing things. And for one part of that would be obviously just making sure that it's inclusive. And so to do this, I also think that we should put more focus on access for events which aid those with disabilities. So let people know which events are disability accessible. But yeah, Refreshers Fair does struggle. But I think it has gone better because of the the fact that it's made bigger, but obviously it's difficult because people I get stuck in their ways.
So you would use the online tools.
So that's one aspect of how I think it could be.
Surely they're quite internal. Like if you're already in a society, you're going to be using the tools. If you're not in a society, you're definitely not.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get new people to engage with in terms of the refreshers fair?
Well, this would be a public tool. Like you can list things as a society, but obviously regular students can just have a look. I would definitely encourage more refreshers events and try and make it more culturally, like more of a culture of the activities to have these freshers events and encourage other societies to do so and explain why it'd be beneficial for them. Because obviously there is still a lot going on at the start of the year, especially for freshers, because they try things out, but maybe they don't get into it. So when it comes to second term, maybe they're looking for a fresh start. So obviously I would want to encourage more societies to partake in the freshers events.
Okay, and then also on Freshers Fair, you mentioned that you want to overcome the debilitating challenges in getting sign-ups caused by the GDPR regulations. What sort of are these challenges, and how are you going to get around them?
GDPR, it was new to sign-ups this year, and this was the first major obstacle that we came across as a 20-minute society. Last year we had over 600 members, and this year we have 430 now, so that puts us down by almost a third. And therefore, it did improve at Refreshers Fair, but for this, there's no reason why it shouldn't be online, and it should stay that way. So the first thing I would do would just be spend the first month probably, or however long it takes in the first over summer, do it, like figure out like an efficient way to do this. Make sure that, for one thing, also in the sports hall there was some Wi-Fi, but it was very poor, and this obviously struggled. Was a big issue because, I mean, what we were trying to do was encourage people to get it up on their phones and then go onto the website, and that's there, and that's a bit lengthy, especially when you're looking at all these different places, just to get on the mailing list. Whereas obviously you can just type in, like, you know, in previous years where there wasn't this regulation, you could just whack in your email and do it that way. So then there should be a way to do it, and that is how I do it.
Okay, Harris, you got any thoughts on sort of Freshers Fair in terms of GDPR, and also on how you would get more people to read Freshers Fair?
In terms of GDPR, I very much think that was a problem of last year. I think it's an isolated incident because it was a new thing. There were some tech problems with the website that have perpetuated throughout this year, which ideally you'd think would be solved by next year, and I don't see any reason why it won't be. So I don't think it's really a thing that has to be fixed. It should more or less work by next year. We've tried it for a year, and tech problems shouldn't be the case. Probably it's more, I mean, maybe it's a case of when we send out the information to freshers about Freshers Fair, letting them know how you sign up to societies, let them know a mailing thing in advance, so that it's not down to, you know, people manning stalls to kind of chat through it. They already know. This is the only way they've ever been introduced to sign up to a society. They're not going to have any confusion. There was a lot of confusion on both sides, a lot of miscommunication. No one's fault. It's a new thing. Websites having problems. People were doing the best that they could, and that's what caused issues ultimately. In terms of refreshers, I mean, you're always going to get a trough in refreshers straight after exams. People are exhausted. People don't want to do jack, both societies and members. But I don't think by any means, as John implies, that would imply that it's a complete waste of time or not successful to a degree. I mean, I've been part of societies that I've set up between both freshers and refreshers have got us loads of members. It's just a case of comms, of marketing, getting people to know it. I do think there's merit to certain ideas that have been postulated about making it more of a entertainment event as well, getting acts in and things like that, much like in normal freshers that we have, you know, some performance arts societies doing things like that. Do that, have incentives, see where we can squeeze, you know, things out of the budgets, vouchers, things like that. As long as we get people down there, then it's just down to societies to advertise themselves. And then again, it's also a case of sort of helping them with marketing, and I mean, that's also an area which I have some degree of experience in, so I can probably guide them that, as well as the marketing department of the union, who have obviously done so many years.
I would say, sorry, just to pick up on a couple of things. Like, one, you said the main issue was like technology. I don't think it was. I think it was the whole process of getting people's emails and sending them out. That's what we found.
Because of technology.
The 20-minute. Well, no, not necessarily, because the whole sign-up had changed. We couldn't take people's emails.
Yes, so technology.
That wasn't technology. That was the way the process had taken it.
The technological process, yes.
Okay, like John Baker's point, please.
But yeah, Doesn't matter. The other point I was going to make was really in regards to, you were saying like the refreshers event was still a success. Like he just said himself, like the turnout was really low
compared to freshers. It's never going to be the same.
No, but if
there was a massive drop between freshers and refreshers.
Yeah, but I'm sure everyone will expect
and
that.
I'm sure you would want to encourage it to increase.
Oh yeah, of course. Like I'd love it to be every single member of the students' union attending every event, but that's an ideal. It's always going to be, if we're comparing to Freshers Fair, which is a main event, not straight after exams from wide-eyed, naive freshers who have nothing else going on in their lives, and it's the main. It's well, they're not voting for me now, so it doesn't matter. I
mean, they are the people that you're going to be representing, so.
That was affectionately made, I will point out. I was a naive, wide-eyed fresher, and then I did my work.
Anyway, we'll move on, shall we? And we'll go to Eleanor's manifesto. So one of the points that you make is that you say that you are the candidate who won't waste people's time. I'm sort of interested to find out how you feel that your time's been wasted so far by activities officers in the past, and how you're going to ensure that isn't repeated.
Sorry if there was miscommunication in there. I don't feel like my time has been wasted in any way. I just mean in terms of I want to make sure everything is as efficient as possible, and make sure that if there's a problem, I will do it as quickly as possible. I'm not saying Sophie hasn't. We've had a great relationship with her. That wasn't an attack on her. Yeah, and I think I get things done. I'm quite busy at uni at the moment. I like to throw myself into a lot of things, and I do them all to the best of my ability. So I know how to do things quickly, but also very well. That's kind of what I meant by not to waste anyone's time.
And then you also make several references to making life easier for students, and I'm sure most of the audience would like to know how you're going to do that for us.
Yeah, so that's kind of down to the society collaboration that I was talking about earlier. Again, just making it somewhere that there's one central place for committee members to collaborate, but also for students to just get the information as, there and simple in one place. I find it quite difficult on the NUSU website sometimes to navigate it, and I think that's why somewhere central like that would be very useful. I also think in terms of making life easier, for me, being in third year, next year is quite scary. Thank God I went for this. But in terms of, there's so many things thrown at you careers-wise, and I think alumni is a really important thing for me. I'm a Newcastle University alumni ambassador, and in terms of making your life easier for the final year in particular, and in second year, I think I really want to make the connection, especially with NCL Spark that's recently been launched, make the connection between alumni and students stronger, so that you have easy access to through your society to the alumni, and that will make your life easier in terms of you don't necessarily have to go trawling through different networking sites, or it's all there for you, and I want to make that more easily accessible for students.
How are you going to do that?
So,
as you say, there's already this NCL Spark.
So NCL Spark.
So what are you actually going to do?
Well, I actually tested NCL Spark. I was on the testing platform, and I mentioned the fact that there could be like a society link in there. Didn't get, obviously I'm only one person, like it didn't necessarily get listened to, but I think I know quite a lot of the alumni team, and if not through NCL Spark, my idea was to contact them and make sure that NCL Spark has maybe a society page where exec committees can put their details in and contact people. I mean, for instance, I don't know, say Film Society, people might not necessarily be studying film that are part of that, but they want it to be their career. If Film Society have a section on NCL Spark where they can let their members know which alumni are in that career or in that industry, then they can pass that information on to their members. I think I have a strong connection with the alumni team. I think I'd be able to come up with a way of doing that. Obviously, this is ideas and propositions. I don't want to promise anything because that would be silly, but that's my aim. That's how I would plan to get that one out there.
Okay. And Meg, you also talk a lot about employability. You say that you want to make people the most employable person that they can be.
Yeah.
How?
It's a really important question. Right, my current experience as a brand manager for the UK's largest graduate recruitment company, I do know a lot about what these big graduate recruitment companies are looking for. So I want to take take more out of the employability extravaganza that we've had on for the last couple of weeks. I also want, because although they're quite big graduate recruitment companies, they still have value to you as an individual, but I also want to develop like sector-specific volunteering accessibility courses that will help you develop those hard skills that recruiters who are a little bit more niche might want. And I think with better development and better skills workshops on how you use LinkedIn, how you use NCL Spark, you can make these activities that you do and really basically advertise yourself better. And when we put on the larger employability extravaganza, these are activities that you can advertise, but also, importantly, they're big networking events with people who have been in the position that you've been, the Newcastle alumni. And so I really want to make those connections, and when you have connections, you're more employable. When you show you have skills that meet targets that they put in the job role, tick them off, you are more employable. So these kind of things I do want to bring in.
Okay, so you talk about workshops there, and one of the things Sophie mentioned is that getting students to actually engage in these workshops is very difficult. And it's like some have good turnouts, some have very, very low turnouts. So how are you going to improve student engagement in these workshops and make people the most employable person they can be?
Yeah, I would agree with Sophie. I went to one of the employability extravaganza workshops was knowing your strengths, and that's a new thing that comes out in working theory. Is basically it's not one that goes with are you a passionate person, not ones that go with like your top criteria, but it makes you evaluate yourself, like make you rethink what are your own skills, because I might think, oh, my best skill is communication, but it might actually be more planning, those kind of things. I don't think students realise because you think that you've already done it. So I really want to work within compulsory modules that you do with the career service, that you do, and then the career service joins in via one lecture and target via those and advertise via them, because I think we are quite low on those like routes.
Okay, and you think making it compulsory through the modules will ensure that students turn up and engage with it?
As it works right now, like the career service will do a couple of lectures in one of your like first or second year or third year modules, and working with those and making those the most productive sessions. I think they're quite one size fits all, and that's not the approach that you need to get when people are looking at different jobs and people are looking at different like routes that they want to do with their future.
Okay, so if you made these workshops compulsory on like a course basis, you would be
I don't want to make the workshops compulsory because I think this might be nice, but you know people aren't going to turn up if you're going to become a dictator and say you've got to come, right? But you've got to advertise them better.
Okay. Okay.
I think in terms of advertising, it's important to let people know about NUSU early. I didn't know about what the NUSU had to offer in first year at all, and it's taken until being on a committee, like in third year, to know what they have to offer and how they can help. So I think you're right. I think going to lectures and stuff would be a really good idea. But I think maybe even going to, and this is just off the top of my head, I haven't deeply thought about it, but I think maybe going to halls and things where people, because even lectures, like first year students don't necessarily turn up, but I think the first year is like where you need to target sort of NUSU involvement more generally as well as employability.
Okay, and then quickly, like Jordan, have you got any thoughts on employability? Obviously that is something that will come under your remit as activities officer. What are your sort of aims for employability for the students?
I think in regards to employability, in fairness, it's been pretty much covered by the others. I think what you were saying about the graduate ambassador is actually like really like a good idea. That's quite cool. I think the main thing that like Newcastle could do more is like not necessarily like promoting it, but just creating more engaging events, making it more, getting like bigger names. Things like people may not come for an employability event, but if they know they're going to get a free piece of Domino's, then yeah, they'll be there. Same as like it goes on.
It's a very good point, but who's paying for the Domino's? Because I'm certainly not, and I doubt you are
I'm
either.
not saying that you're necessarily going to pay for it, but do you not think a company wants to be there? Like if you turn around and say, oh, I'm going to have 12,000 students coming through this employability event, they're going to put a stand on. I don't necessarily think they're going to charge, and if they are going to charge, you can negotiate that. And it also comes under like the pros and cons. If the uni's going to like put money towards it, they'll get more out of it, and then that comes under like student satisfaction scores and employability rates, which all benefit the uni. I don't necessarily think payment would be the biggest issue.
Okay.
So, excuse me, I'm going to have to take my leave here.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for joining us,
having me
Alistair.
on that bombshell.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy your fashion show. Okay, Harris, what was your sort of thoughts on employability?
I've already done some work with the careers department at university in terms of getting employability sessions running. As part of my role as disability officer, I've had meetings both with careers directly and also when I sit on the disability inclusivity group about setting up sessions. These have been, of course, to target disabled students, but of course that's actually very important because a lot of events we run for employability and careers so far don't tend to take that into consideration. We don't tend to, both from the business side and also how we manage the space. There's currently a plan in process to a degree to run a event for disabled students in terms of employability that I'm helping to consult on. Hopefully that will manifest. So I already have this connection with careers. I already know certain members of the career department who are quite high up because that's how fast it's going up. So that gives me already the experience of organising certain events like these.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, I'm going to come to you, Harris, next in terms of your manifesto. And sort of on that, you spend about half the time talking about the things that you've achieved and the experience that you've got. Some might argue that experience comes not with quantity but with quality. And that whilst you might have had numerous roles, you may not have achieved as much as you could have done in those roles. How would you sort of respond to that?
I feel like I achieved. I feel I achieved. I achieved great. Not great, but I achieved what I needed to do in those roles. I mean, certainly when I was on the committees of most of my societies in second year, amongst my achievements is that I helped to grow both Creative Writing Society and Film Society to give them the foundations to let them grow to the point now. I'm sure the current committee and the current members would attest that it's that the societies are both very inclusive. They run very fulfilling and well-worth activities. Such was my involvement with those committees in those years. I got nominated for the Pride of Newcastle Awards for that. So I guess if we want to have some sort of way of measuring how much I put into that, I guess that's one way you could do that. Yeah, again, I've never stopped. I have another life apart from the union. I think no one's going to disagree with that. I have no social life and I have no personal life, so it's pretty much just me helping societies grow. And I think that gives me that shows my dedication and my heart towards the thing. So I do think I don't think there's any society that I've let down by being on a committee.
Yeah, it's undoubtable that over the last 5 years, you've been very heavily involved with the SU. But does that not mean that sort of voting for you will be voting for sort of like the same old SU kind of people, like with a lack of sort of freshness and innovation coming to the SU?
I don't think so. I mean, within my roles, I'm constantly trying to pioneer new things. Once I've set most times I set a committee, my goal is to set a new foundation for new things to grow from it. That's my perspective. And so I come to the committee, I have ideas of things to do, and the idea is that then that'll be built on. I come to build a legacy for people to advance, develop, change, whatever, but it gives them the foundations to not having to start from scratch off on a bad basis. Same thing when I've been on the Society Gazette Committee. Amongst the things that I've helped develop, I've written a new disciplinary procedure, so that's now clearer for people to know how to resolve issues involving committee disciplinary. In terms of the storage space, for many years that was in a very small cupboard next to the Atkinson suite. It was small, it was dangerous, and I was one of the most active voices during that Society Exec Committee to move that to the bigger storage downstairs. That's not a solution, it hasn't fixed all the problems, but it's better than it was before. It's less of a death trap. That's amongst other things.
On that, you speak, you're one of the only people to speak about room bookings and storage. Now, there's been a lot of work on room bookings. It was a big thing last year, less so this year. So what is it that you want to do in terms of room booking specifically? And then what are you talking about in terms of storage and improving that as well?
I'm not sure it's less so this year. I know Sophie's done a lot of work in terms of improving the booking system. I know we've now added the Barbara Teacher Centre to the booking system. So work has been done this year. And it's just building on that. There are obviously issues. There always going to be issues. I never say in my manifesto that I'm going to be the one to completely fix it because I have the sort of foresight to know it's a big continuous issue. But I do have the background experience to know what's been done before, what's worked, what's not worked, and I can tackle it. I can speak to the estate staff of someone who I have a working relationship with already, so that obviously helps there.
So what are you actually going to do? Like, quite simply, what are you actually going to do to improve room booking next year?
One idea possibly would be to speak to other building managers of buildings. I mean, well, actually, one of my first points is trying to connect departments, university departments, with societies, because I know that's an issue with a lot of societies that have, counterparts in university degrees, but there's not really communication. If, for example, there's a close connection with Film Stock, which is a society I sit on a committee of, and the film department, we would potentially then have better access to the equipment. We sort of do have a connection with the film department. We're able to use sort of stuff from the culture club, but that's dependent on an individual who happens to be a film student, happens to be the president. When he leaves, that connection kind of breaks. I want it to be a connection between the department and the society. If that happens, that'll also be a two-stone scenario where then we have access to their space. So we're not having to book rooms. We can just go to the a reception and be like, hey, we're the film society. We're helping support your students by giving you opportunities to learn film in your own time, which is going to obviously help your degree. So in return, can you give us some space so we can help, basically do this free tuition work?
Yeah, in terms of that, there is a reason why the universities shut their rooms at a certain time and lock them, and that's because to keep them open, they have to have staff members there. So in order to sort of meet the needs of societies and to use them rooms at university, they've got to keep them open. They've got to have staff members there.
Yeah.
Is there not a point where the university starts saying, well, we're going to start charging you for these staff members in order to keep these rooms open?
Glad you brought it up, actually, because that's sort of the situation with film stock. Our situation with using Cultural Lab space is having staff look after the room. But my point is kind of come to negotiating with the departments that, Film Society, we're offering people opportunities to learn film in their own time. This is beneficial to you. So for that reason, the extra cost of having rooms open an hour or open for like a morning or a weekend would be offset by the fact that you're giving your students a better opportunity, makes the department look more, marketable to.
This is very film specific. Can't say that word. Film specific. Sorry. What about for the rest of the societies, if they're struggling for space?
Which one do you want me to go with? I can give you a scenario for probably a bunch of
I'm just saying more broadly, like you're here to represent not the film stock, you're here to represent all of activities.
I know that the new building space that the building opposite the sports hall is going to have a bunch of new dance rooms in there. I don't know if that's going to be open to societies.
So
but I can be
when you
involved
come
the
in,
consultation process
say you
of
came
that.
into office, okay, what are you actually going to do to help with room booking? That's the question.
Other than what I've gone through already.
The actual one thing that you can actually promise, because a lot of this you've been saying, well, I could do this, I could do that. What
Well,
you
I can't
actually
promise
going
anything.
to do?
I don't know what people are going to do. No one here can promise anything. We've had multiple officers come into roles and not complete their full manifestos. I'm not going to come in and say, I'm going to fix the problem. And that's what I started off by saying. But I do have the experience, I do have the contacts, I do know what's happened before. That gives me the best sort of high spot to get a start on it. I can go with momentum that I've already built and, people work we've already built.
So on to the others. You've sort of left out, haven't really mentioned room booking for you. Is there a particular reason that isn't on your manifesto? We'll go to Jordan first.
To be fair, that is a complete oversight on my part. I actually thought it was. I went around liaising with a couple of people, and for instance, the a cappella society did mention that they had a lot of problems, and it was more last minute sort of cancellations of their space. I think it's more about having clarity, and if there's a booking in place, system, so that you can't just take that away from them. Because while other events may override it or be more significant, at the end of the day, it's still a society trying to build their experiences and stuff.
How would you change that?
It's just by being more if there are bookings in place and there are events coming in at the last minute, doing whatever you can to try to find another room, or at least if you have to take a room off of society, ensure that next time if you have to do that again, then it won't be that society, it won't be that same time. Because what I've found from speaking to a couple of societies is that their rooms are getting cancelled and nothing's in place to solve it. I'm not saying that right now I can on the spot say, yeah, I can solve this problem, because I'm not. But it is something that I'm aware of, and something that I think there just needs to be more clarity about it and a system in place.
Okay, Eleanor, what's your sort of solution?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I haven't really thought about room bookings, because I think it's so dependent on each individual society. So, for instance, the bigger societies are going to struggle more than the smaller societies who might be able to, I don't know, baking society would probably be able to do it at someone's house or something. So I think clarity is very important. I think what is put in place needs to be stuck to. But I also think that maybe a more personal approach with the societies. If you have a problem, come and talk to me about it. And I think it does need to, instead of, it's hard to say, because obviously you do need a system in place, but I do think it needs to be more individual sometimes. I think you can't just put a general, this is how we're going to do it, without listening to individual society needs. That is their responsibility, the society's responsibility, to come to you and talk about when they have an issue. But I think more openness to realising that each situation is different.
Yeah, each situation is different, but if a society's room gets cancelled, that's quite a big part of the event, and that's not good enough. So really, in terms of event booking, one, you shouldn't be able to cancel if someone else has booked it in front of you, irrelevant of whether you think your event is more significant. Tough luck, right? I want to find more support that people know how to outsource, where to get event spaces that aren't always on campus. Ideally, it would be nice to keep it on campus if you want it on campus, but sometimes if the room is booked before you, then you can't necessarily have it. I also want, in room bookings, cancellation is a problem. I think also expediency. When you book a room as a society and you want to book a room in the SU, there's an online programme door that you have to get into. It has to be, you have to have the right password, which I think is only given out to executive members on the committee. And I think also you have to go through a lot of systems saying how many chairs you want, what places access, also how you want the tables arranged, which in the end doesn't actually affect it because it's just how it was left beforehand behind you. So there are extra boxes that you need to fill in which don't need to be filled in. Also, when you submit the form, you have to wait for a person in the office to verify it. I do think that's a good idea, and I think we should keep that. However, I think general expediency is a big thing that needs to be changed with room booking systems.
Okay, like how would you increase like the efficiency of that? Like you say, you have to wait in for the person to sort of okay it. How would you improve that?
Ideally, in terms of waiting for the person to okay it, they are not incredibly, the wait isn't that long. In terms, sometimes it can be hours until the next day. And I think if you're going to book it on the day where the person's not in or they've just finished work, then I think that's quite a human fault, and you should recognise that as a also living, breathing human being. But also in terms of ratifying it, you should say that although you wouldn't be able to book it if someone else has already booked it, like that's already blocked off, so you can't do that. If it's already provisionally booked or they might have it on there, that should be notified to you, and that should help your decision making.
Okay, so moving on to Jordan's manifesto now. One of the things that you pledge is that you think that people who take part in Freshers Crew deserve a free societal membership. Why? Quite frankly,
Yeah,
why?
fair. That's a good question. I think because, like, I don't know if anyone in this room has done Freshers Crew, but like I did it this year, and it's physically and mentally like it's really tiring. And
it's also rewarding.
Yeah, it is. That's what I said in the manifesto. Like, you make great friends,
video.
you make great memories, and it is a good time. But I think by giving like societal memberships, what I've found in my experience of both doing Freshers and drag crews, it's easy to sort of like give up halfway through. So like by giving some sort of incentive to actually go from point A to point B, you're able to keep people going. So then they, at the end of it, join more societies get more memberships, and then they get more funding, and it just goes in a sort of...
How are they going to get more funding if it's free?
Yeah, if it's free. You've also said that if you buy one membership, you should get the second one half price. Like, how do you decide which society is...
Is that half of societies?
Taking 1 point at a time. So in terms of focusing on the idea as it is, if you do Freshers Crew and that as an incentive, does that not just encourage people to only do it for the society membership if you're talking about that as being an incentive?
Yeah, no, that like, but at the end of the day, like even if they are only doing it for the free societal membership, it's more people on hand to help during Fresh Week to help it more run more smoothly.
And then secondly, moving on, you talk about how that would be beneficial for societies with more sign-ups, but you're giving away free memberships. How is this benefiting societies?
Because they're getting like more numbers and more increased like participation.
To support because
but you only get
money.
Yeah, you need the membership from the member in order to support those extra members. I think also the kind of people that help for Freshers Week would hopefully, you would have thought, find the week itself rewarding enough, and you get free activities throughout the week. You get to go to the activities yourself without having to pay for them, and like at the end of the week, I feel like that should be reward enough, and I don't think it's fair also that the kind of people that would do Freshers Week might then end up doing or asking for the free membership of the same society. So one society might end up having to give loads of free memberships away and others not, and I don't think that's fair.
No, that's fair. Like, I do understand what you're saying. And
especially because a lot of Freshers go to RAG.
I think maybe there should be like more rewards for Freshers Crew, like because you're right, like there needs to be more hands on campus to help Freshers, but I just don't think free membership is the right way to go.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if we're worrying about, I personally think that there should be something in place. There's limits to put that, like if you do it for a particular sign-up window, so if you sign up early so that crews can be built early enough rather than just last-minute sign-ups. But also, like, in my manifesto, I mentioned about helping the university to get more sponsorships for societies, because I feel like at this present moment, like, there's a big opportunity to, like, get the university more invested in the city and more included by, like, getting local businesses involved. Go outsource a pool of local businesses that want to sponsor societies, and then get a pool of societies that want sponsorship and match them up and go from there. What I like, if you're worrying about like the funding aspect of it, that would override it. So
okay, so you think that you could make up the amount of money that you're going to be losing through Freshers Career, and also by the buy one get one free, get one half price deal, will be made up through sponsorships?
I think it's a way, an avenue to buy looking at it, yeah.
I don't think every society needs a sponsorship either. Like, it's not necessarily something that that's the way they want, the route they want to go down. And if that's the only option of them getting their money back, that's not really very accessible to all societies.
Also, the time you'd need to find sponsorships to cover that, as well as your job. The time you have to spend finding the sponsorships.
No, I know that, but at the end of the day, if you turn like putting out an open call to local businesses and turn around and say we're looking for sponsors, it's an email, a couple of phone calls. It's like, and yeah, it is a time away from what you could be doing elsewhere. But like coming back to what you were saying, society's not wanting sponsorships. Why would societies not want extra money?
That's true, but I think sometimes they don't necessarily want. I mean, we've had sponsorship from History Society, and I think it can be like it's another. Like there's quite a lot of pressure on the society. You're holding the Newcastle University reputation as well, and I think some society members they might be doing okay with the money that they've got. Yeah, sponsorship is great. You're right. Like every society would want more money, but I think it is an added pressure onto the committee members, and I think those societies that might not have enough members to run that relationship with the sponsorship, they might be the ones that have the free, have the members that have been granted the free membership, and they might not have the numbers in their committee to deal with a sponsorship relationship.
So that comes back under, so when you were talking about regarding like less members, that comes under sort of the monthly mixes I was suggesting, because you can do more collaborative and get more societies working together.
Yeah, no, I think
Moreover,
that's a really good
when
idea.
you were saying in regards to more pressure, like every society on every social is upholding Newcastle University. If something goes wrong, which we've seen recently with certain societies, like societies can get shut down. So on every single social you're upholding it. By having a sponsorship or a logo, that's not going to change.
Yeah, no, fair.
Okay, but you're talking about this thing which will affect every society. If you do buy one get one half price, that's going to affect every society. Yeah. Okay, so how are you going to find sponsorships for every single society that will reach the value of the money that they will get from these memberships? Bearing in mind that for some societies memberships might be £5, for others that could be into the 20s, 30s and 50s,
No, I do understand what you're saying. I mean, right now, I can't turn around and say exactly how I would work that out. I can't turn around and give you a finite idea of point A to point B. But, like, what I personally think is it's all about sort of getting the pool and the collaboration going. And in regards to the finance and stuff, the more businesses you get involved, it's not limited to having one sponsorship or two sponsorships. If you get multiple, then it all builds up. And I think the whole bigger picture is getting a more, like, the university at this present moment, it does, like, so much good for the society, like with Rag Week, which, like, locals know about. My grandparents, who didn't, like, only just did secondary school education, they knew what Rag Week was when I told them I was going to be a Rag Week supervisor. So, like, there are aspects of stuff that we are doing so well that we're getting recognised for, but I feel like we could do so much more. Just bring the university in with the city and just get, like, more collaboration going and just become a more integral part.
But is that going to make up the money that you're going to be losing through these half price?
But if you're getting
memberships?
enough society, if you're getting enough sponsorships and enough local businesses, how many local businesses are there?
But I think local businesses, like, you've got to remember they've got agency too. Like, they're going to decide, they're going to want to decide, would pick the best societies that have the most members, or like, how are you going to guarantee that, I don't know, Medics Without Borders is going to get the same amount of sponsorship or as many interests in sponsorship as, I don't know, history or someone who's got more members and can guarantee the local business more interest?
Yeah, no, I take that point on board, but that's the whole idea of, like, creating the pools. And if you send that a list of information over, like, for instance, a cake shop might want to collaborate with the Bacon Society. The Bacon Society on the biggest, it's more like niche interests and stuff. And you'll find, like, equipment shops would work with like a cappella. There's a lot of like different aspects of it that you can choose, and moreover, you can regulate it if it's something about a society getting a certain amount of sponsorships more than someone else. There's systems in place that you could place there. Like, I do say what you're saying, and I do like agree. Like, I'm not standing here right now saying I've got like every idea sorted and I know exactly like.
But if you're coming in for this summer to say you were to become activities officer and you're going to implement this from September, that's not a lot of time to get this ready. And if you haven't got the ideas now, how are you going to get that implemented in time for September when freshers are arriving and wanting to sign up for societies? There's a lot to do and little time to do it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, so moving on to sort of some broader questions then. One being, what would you do if you found a society with an external bank account? Come in to Meg first. So what would you do if you found a society with an external bank account?
I'd get in touch with the society exec like immediately. I think you've got to think about why they've got an external bank account. Think about issues about bribery and how that affects student relationships and student satisfaction on campus. Ideally, it would need to be communicated well prior to it, and I do think it's unacceptable that you'd have an external bank account anyway, but there must have been like a reasoning behind it, and that needed to be communicated, and I'd invite them to the office like as soon as possible that they can make it. Also, the bank account I think would be cancelled, because I think we have enough support treasury-wise, and the student exec of that committee should feel comfortable enough to come and talk to me previously to decide about issues about treasury and how they can get grant funding and how they need to be more transparent in their own financial terms.
Yeah, I mean, similar. It's pretty obvious you can't have an external bank account. That is said in the training, so perhaps training, we've all mentioned training, that should be clearer on the rules. I do think it's very daunting when you start being on a committee. Just very clear, obvious rules, can and can't do. Get the society in to talk to you. I think emails, yeah, obviously you need to communicate, but I think in person, you'd have to have an in-person meeting, and if necessary, you'd have to take it higher up.
And then just a quick sort of sentence on what you would do in terms of welfare and training, what your sort of plans are for that. Just a quick sentence, because we are sort of running out of time. So Harris.
Well, I mean, super quick, as Liberation of and Disability Officer, I've already had consultations with officers in terms of running welfare, so I've already had a role in that. I know kind of what's been done, what needs to be done, what needs to be improved. Truth be told, no disrespect to Jack, but the welfare training this year, I was disappointed it had no mention of disabled students in time until I brought it up. That was obviously my first point of call, but then obviously several things. I consulted with the PTOs. I think that was what lacking in the welfare training this year. PTOs weren't consulted.
Okay, Jordan.
I think it would be liaising with like all the welfare officers and getting all of their feedback of how they found their role this year, what could be improved, what couldn't be improved, and then ensuring that that's implemented in the next training.
I think working with the university student wellbeing service as well, to make sure it's not just a responsibility of the union, but also knowing that there are other people that you can go to outside the union. It's a lot to put on just the welfare officer.
And then Meg.
Welfare is incredibly important with the situation with Ed Farmer these past years. I think welfare training should be available to all committee members, and that's what I'd like to advance, especially in my training updates. I also think that's communication with the welfare officer as well, because they have a lot of ideas about how we can improve it on campus and how societies can be better informed. I also think that welfare is also a responsibility of all of us, that you need to be looking out for your mates and stuff like that. So people being more trained and being more aware, and I think that's helping something we can advance with better marketing skills and better advertising and targeting and information output about where students can go when they need it.
Okay, and then the last question from me before we go to audience questions is going to be, if you had 5 minutes in a room with the Vice-Chancellor, what would be the one thing that you would try and change? Okay, the one thing that you would suggest. Coming straight to Harris.
I think it would be telling university it needs to give better support overall to marginalised student groups, because that still comes, I know it's a welfare issue, but it still comes very much under activities as well, because it's inclusivity, it's getting people included in university life, and the biggest problem with that is always going to be issues in terms of being marginalised, being disabled, or being working class, or whatever. So, I mean, that's the very first thing I'd do.
Okay, so marginalised students. Jordan?
I think the main thing I would say is about like student engagement from the first opportunity. So obviously in my manifesto I'm going about a BuzzFeed quiz. I reckon things like that in place, like to get engagement from day dot so that I can continue throughout. Because at the minute I feel like the people spend their first year not even joining societies, people can spend their entire 3 years. They miss out on so many opportunities, so many friends, and so many memories. And yeah.
Okay, Eleanor.
And I think I'd ask for better communication between the university as an institution and the union. I think there's not enough recognition or communication between the two. I think it needs to be a stronger relationship. So life at uni is made easier for both the union and the university.
Okay, and Meg?
I'd like to discuss how we can make things more cheap and cheerful for us as students in Newcastle. I know student living has gone up quite a lot, and that affects how we involve in activities in the SU, and I think that's something that I'm quite well aware of and educated in, and something I'd really like to advance and change if I was your next activity.
Okay, thank you.
Officer.
And now, any questions from the audience? Hello.
Hello. So I'm on society exec this year, and I've worked with the activities officer past year, and apart from these very nice positive schemes, as we've already touched upon slightly, there is a lot of disciplinary action taken as part of the activities officer's role as well. So not just external bank accounts, but also things like bullying, sexual misconduct, and racist incidents as well. For example, the mechanical engineering situation, which I'm sure you've all heard about. What would you have done in that situation with such a serious incident, like that incident where there was racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic things written on people's shirts?
Okay, so sort of in terms of complaints and stuff like that, what would you do with these complaints? Going to Harris first.
Well, I'd be hard
We'll
for me
go
to
along.
answer this hypothetically because I do sit on the society committee with Chris and actually have been dealing with these incidents, the specific ones being
Okay,
mentioned.
but for the audience.
Sorry?
For the audience who weren't on the committee.
Well, obviously I can't go into detail about it.
No,
It's
but what?
confidential. But in broad strokes, it's approaching the situation as it is, trying to look at what the causes are, trying to get as many facts as you can, don't jump to assumptions. But ultimately, you need to care about student welfare, first of all, and going by the policies which are in place to protect that.
Okay, Jordan.
In my working life, like outside of uni, I've been like a supervisor at Primark and a weekend manager there. So it's like I've got like experience of doing disciplinaries. I think in regards to that incident, it would be like liaising with the committee and finding out exactly why it happened, how it happened. Obviously, it's not acceptable and disciplinary needs to be taken action, but it's also ensuring that trying to stop it in the bud in the first place, and ensuring that people know, like on those sorts of types of socials, that's where it comes into training, that like you can't do that and that isn't okay, and that like even on that social, whatever you're writing on that t-shirt, you're representing the university. I think at the minute, like when we go into it, because we were going to do a white t-shirt social ourselves, then we pulled that at the last minute because we didn't want to risk that situation. I think it's about having like transparency and clarity in training, especially for social sex. We had the social sex training this year, and personally, like in regards to that sort of aspect, there was nothing there. So it'd be quite easy for a social sec to amp up their members and be like, yeah, let's do this, and then don't think about the consequences.
Okay, and Eleanor.
I think there's two important things. I think it's getting all the evidence, all the information, and everything laid out so you can make a fair and responsible decision. But I think it's also, as activities officer, if you're going into this, you don't have the experience in that, and I think it's being very open and honest and saying, look, I might not have the experience of this, but I want to help. And I think knowing when you need other people's advice and if you need to take it further or take it higher, I think you need to be able to say, look, let's work together in this and let's try and tackle it as a collective.
Okay, Meg.
Yeah, when I think it's quite a serious complaint, as in homophobia and racism, it's unacceptable behaviour. I think that comes down to an issue that we need to get across again in training, but also that we need to speak to both parties, get more detail, as you say, from the person who is making that complaint. Also knowing that they can speak to me whenever about any issues. I also think that while it's not the best thing that you can always talk about on campaigns about enforcement and all the negative sides of things, I get that, it's really crucial that you do so, that we support Newcastle's great reputation, that we have the best student experience possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? We'll go to you in the middle, sorry.
Yeah, so I've, from my past experience as a postgraduate school rep, I know that a lot of postgraduate students want to get involved with activities and societies, but feel there's a barrier between them, and this is especially prevalent in international students. I was just wondering what ideas you may have in order to increase participation of postgraduate students.
So that was sort of like increasing participation with postgraduate students specifically, yeah? Okay, Meg.
This was one of the big parts of my 200-word manifesto. Ideally, this is something that I'd really like to talk to with the international students officer and the postgraduate officer, because obviously they have the experience and their background coming from. But ideally, I'd like to communicate and collaborate to make school societies, because the postgraduate body is a little bit smaller than the student body, so we need to make up those numbers. But also, I'd really like to make more of a more noise in International Students Week. So at the moment, like, a lot of international students, when they come across into Newcastle, it's their first place away from home. It's certainly, for many people, their first time abroad in a foreign country. So we need to make it as welcoming as possible as we can. So ideally, we can make that noise and extend it into International Students Week to make sure they feel that most welcome.
I think probably maybe put in place a reward system for the societies. You already get sort of exclusivity award as your society page on the NUSU website. So maybe if you get a certain number of postgrad students as members or a certain number of international students as members, you could then get a reward for that. Maybe that'd be money or a free event or something like that. I think, unfortunately, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, incentive is key. So I think, yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Okay, Jordan?
I think, in my honest opinion, like, a lot of the problem is the mentality that when postgraduates are here or international students are here, they're sort of somehow different to us. Ultimately, we're all students, we're all after the same experience. Obviously, they have different experiences and require different sort of like care, almost, especially with international students. I think it's particularly prevalent to like make them feel comfortable. I think postgraduate students, it's almost for them easy for them to be outcast. I think by ensuring that everyone's like feeling part of it and included and all on the same level, it'll be a lot better.
Again, like I'm neither an international officer nor an international student, neither a postgraduate student, so I'd be first and foremost consulting with my hopefully future colleagues on the man and hear about why they think there's this disconnect, and obviously then, as much as I can with them, talking to the students, finding that out. From there, from an action plan, again, it's keeping them engaged, working out what it is that they feel are lacking, and sort of approaching that and getting comms out and marketing out and just kind of getting engaged in that sense. And also, like when I do my training, a big thing I want to push just across the board in all student groups is try and be as inclusive and accessible as you can to everyone. So, you know, telling societies don't just be satisfied with what they're getting in or feeling that they've ever got enough. Try and work out where they're lacking, be it any marginalised group or be international students or postgrads, and then try and do specifically to target those in the future marketing campaigns.
Okay, and we'll take your one final question.
Mine was like in a similar frame, but more just about like accessibility in general, like especially for marginalised groups. Like how are you going to make sure that they can access societies more easily? I know obviously we have the society bursary, which is really great, but just like generally making sure, for example, like some rooms that you can book for societies aren't completely wheelchair accessible, and that's a really big issue. So just things like that generally, and like help, and also obviously like the lifts in the NUSU, just making people more aware and making sure, you know, students who need lifts just like get stuck in a society event.
Okay, so that question was sort of about accessibility, and particularly for marginalised students and disabled students, with specific reference to the lifts and access. So we'll go to Meg first.
Yeah, with reference to like physical accessibility, I think that's not an issue of one society in particular, but that's a wider student union building issue that we need to make aware of. There are a couple of ramps, but again, I need to consult with someone who is less physically able than myself in such circumstances. I think the lifts in general need to be improved in the student union building and campus across. Like some of them are too thin for a wheelchair. Like I can physically see that myself, and that's not good enough either, because it should be accessible for all, you know. And so I'd like to communicate that across and get better services available for such. But again, I think that's something I'd really like to consult with for someone that knows a little bit more, who is more informed than myself, such as the disability students officer.
Okay, Eleanor.
Yeah, I think listening is the key to that. I think, like you said, get someone who is more informed. But I think also, yes, it is a activities officer's responsibility to make sure the societies are more inclusive, but I think that would also be working with the welfare officer as well, to make sure I don't want to shove responsibility onto that. It's very much a collaboration between activities officer and welfare officer to make sure we provide the best result.
Jordan?
I'd echo everything that they've said so far. So in regards to like better facilities and like better access to lifts, but like regarding in the 20-minute society, we like on our socials we've taken that into account. So we've worked about accessibility and thought about it. Like so our president's like quite big on that at the minute. I think it's just about better training. I think the main aspect is making people more aware that because we're fortunate enough to be able-bodied and like fine, like that there are people who aren't as fortunate as us, and if they're more aware of it, they'll think about it more when planning societies and socials and such.
Okay, and Harris?
I don't know where we came from because I'm not able-bodied, but no, in terms of the stuff that's been mentioned, in terms of SU Billing, I'm actually proud to say that I'm actually already on that. So we've throughout this year, I've been talking to Disability Inclusivity Group, the Estates Disability Group. Methods are already in motion now to try and get it to happen. It's a very long and complex issue. If you want to know the full details in Bradford, you should read my Disability Officer blog because I mentioned it in there. And I expect something that is in process that I'm already on the consulting board for and actually developing because it was something that annoyed me when I first heard about it, and I've been probably my primary actions as a disability officer this year is to kind of combat that. Building aside, because that's already being dealt with, in terms of general accessibility, whenever I go on a committee, whenever I'm in a society event, I'm always calling people out for the lack of accessibility for disabled students, but even marginalised students as a whole. It's just a fact of the matter that Newcastle University is primarily occupied by white students, despite the fact that we're actually a fantastic university for international students and marginalised groups as well. So it's making sure societies know to sort of incorporate in events. For example, like Creative Writing Society has done a lot of activities this year in terms of cultural appropriation and cultural ways of writing, and that's the exact thing we want to have in societies that makes international students feel like they can get involved. So instances like that.
Perfect. Thank you very much for being part of this debate, and that concludes our debate on Activities Officer. Our coverage continues tomorrow with Welfare Officer and Editor of the Courier being on the debates. Thanks for the audience for joining us, and if you listened at home as well. Thank you.